Hey, everybody. Welcome to My Daily Bread, the podcast. I am so excited that you're here today. This is going to be episode number 12. And with me are two of my favorite people on the earth, Pastor James and Julie Wells from Evansville, Indiana. Many of you who are watching the podcast already know them. Many have been in relationship with them for many years. And I couldn't think of anybody better to have on episode 12. In fact, I had already recorded episode 12 and decided that this needed to be episode 12 of season number 1. So, Pastor James and Julie, I'm so happy you guys are here with me today and addressing the My Daily Bread crowd and anyone else that watches our podcast, right? We have such great times in the mornings.
Yeah.
And hopefully this moment is no different. So we want to laugh.
We want to laugh.
We want to cry if we need to.
If we need to.
We want to dig into some just good stuff, good content, good conversation, and see where it is that we go with today's conversation. Are you guys great with that?
Yes,
Good with that?
thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
It's great to be
Yeah,
here.
we're
I mean,
super
how do you
excited to be here.
feel getting to this is it?
This
So
is
you've done a whole season.
a whole season. Yeah.
What in the world? Who knew?
You know, it was a dream.
Yes.
For a long time.
Uh-huh.
Been talking about
And
it for a long time.
Yeah, and it's really funny because everyone will ask me, so like how long does it take you to prepare? I'm like, prepare? What do you mean? I call Taylor. And I say, do you have
you
this time
available?
available?
Hey,
right?
coming in.
And they're like,
Coming in hot.
Well, what about when you study for your? I don't study for these.
Yeah, and I don't read prior to My Daily Bread either.
Yeah, me either.
I loved it the day that you called out everybody. You were like, yeah, you all pre-read. I'm like, not me. I rolled out of bed and I'm just like, listen to what the Spirit has to say.
I read the same scripture last year.
Yeah.
This year, it's brand new.
But I'm a man of preparation.
You
That's
are.
true.
Yeah.
So I need to know.
So how do you feel about being on today's episode? And we don't have a specific direction that we're headed yet.
Just flow. Just
Just
see
flow.
what happens.
Do you want me to answer that question
Sure.
for him?
For
He
me?
feels very nervous about it.
She speaks for me sometimes.
Or
Or
it's just that
often.
he was thinking so loud. That's
Yeah.
all.
I want to ask you something. What
Oh man,
take out of today? Because obviously today would be the highlight.
right?
What is the highlight of the episodes that you've done? Can you pull one thing?
Highlight. Man, boy, that's really hard to pull on just one. I will have to say that. Can I give a few?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's your podcast.
So when I first started visioning what this podcast was like, I knew I always wanted to do something with Justin in ministry.
Mm.
Always, always.
Don't we
always.
all?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, Justin.
No better
that's just
person.
the way it works.
He's
bro.
incredible.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
he's
love
incredible.
Justin.
Yeah.
We've gotten to watch Justin grow up.
Oh my
We've gotten to be a
goodness.
part of his life from almost you guys the beginning.
Yeah.
Me
baby.
almost the beginning of his life.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
getting to watch him become who he is
mhm.
and watch God develop in his life, that's awesome to me. I love
Yes,
I
it's
love to see
incredible.
that. So getting to do ministry with him because
Mhm,
Justin thinks differently, he even
Mhm.
challenges me. And
mhm.
I think that's an important part of relationship is to not just have yes people around you,
Correct.
but to have people around you that can challenge the way you think, your thought processes,
Mhm.
all of those things. It's really healthy to have that. And Justin is one of those voices for me. So having
measure.
Justin is a highlight.
in measure. Because
In-
one time
in
I had
measure.
lunch with this man from our church, and he's a great guy. He's a doctor. And we were having lunch, and I said to him, we were talking, and I said, Dr. Morrison, I don't want to be just surrounded by yes men, and yes people. Like, I want people to tell me the truth and tell me. He's like, do you really mean that? And I said, yeah. And he said,
Uh-oh.
okay, here's number 1, number 2, number 3. And I was like, Mark,
Whoa.
okay,
That's good.
don't be so honest.
How about we stop at
Yeah.
one?
Let's measure this. You don't have to unload on me on the first meeting. So
That's awesome. Another great episode that I loved was when Dr. McCrae, my coach.
yeah.
Oh, I
and
loved that
mentor.
episode.
You can see that on
Yes,
your face.
Fantastic.
Oh my gosh. I was like, I was just sitting here absorbing. It was to the point like I didn't even know what to ask him because he was just having this natural conversation.
Mhm.
And there were moments where I was just like, he's sitting there thinking, do I interrupt him? Do I just let the silent part? It's
You
like
looked so
Selah in
calm, though.
practice.
Mhm.
Yeah, you look
Yeah,
so calm and, like,
yeah.
with it. I would have never guessed
Mhm.
that you were panicking internally.
Internally, I was
Mhm,
panicking.
mhm.
And to hear him talk about grace, unlike I'd
Beautiful,
ever been taught it before. Not
beautiful.
only had I not been taught grace like that before, I had not been taught grace like that from a pastor,
Yeah.
a
Remind us of
former
what, like,
pastor.
can you sum that up?
Yeah. Grace was not just this thing that allowed me to get away with
Mhm.
things in life.
No, no,
Yes.
no, 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 no,
And
right.
of
Mhm.
course, we've heard that part
Right.
of it, but the side of grace that was for something.
Mhm.
Grace had a
Mhm,
purpose.
mhm.
The purpose of grace was to call me forward in life in a more mature way.
Yeah.
It was that space of time where I could grow up, where we could grow up from being an immature baby
Mhm,
Christian into a
mhm.
mature Christian that is not only being on the receiving end of all of the
Yeah,
things,
mhm, right.
but now being on the giving end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sign of maturity, I
Yeah.
think, in your spiritual walk is like when I can come into a room and granted, all of us have needs. Like I have times I need to be in church and I need to receive or wherever I am. It's not just church, but also that we go to church because I also go to give.
Right.
I also go to give of myself to my brothers and sisters who, I don't know, I teach the old lady Sunday school class.
Mhm.
Sorry, I said that.
I know. It's harsh.
I didn't really want to do it to start with, and this was years ago when my kids were little. And all of them got too old to teach their class,
Mhm.
and my dad was like, "Do you want to teach this class?" And I was like, "No, like I can barely get to church on time. I've got a baby in a car seat, and I've got to do 3 heads of hair before I can even get out the door, and
Uh-huh.
nobody knows where their shoes are. Like it's awful."
All the
Including
mom
you.
stuff.
Including me, yes. And so I was like, no. And then he just announced it from the pulpit. He was like, my daughter will be teaching the Sunday school class. And I'm sitting in the choir loft, which was on our platform. And I'm just looking out at the audience like, yeah, I guess I am. I just did the Pastor Rick smile, like, that is horrible. And so at first they would correct me if
Mhm.
I was wrong. I told you they whispered about me, but they weren't really whispering because they can't hear
What were they saying, Jules?
that I was gaining weight.
Mhm.
And one time,
You gotta
I'm
love these.
joking.
Oh, wow.
And one time I was taking all the ladies on a lunch, right? And so we were gonna drive the church van, and they're back there whispering, and they're like, "Do
They
you
think
think?"
they're whispering.
Yeah, they
Right.
think
No.
they're whispering. Like, "Do you even think that she knows where she's going?" And I was like, "Yes." And then they were like, I mean, isn't there a man that could drive the van? And I turned around and I was like, I whooped my head around and I was like, listen here, I know where I'm going and I am the driver. Get it together, everybody. But honestly, that has been such a gift for me to watch them walk through very hard and difficult things and
Mhm.
love the Lord. A lot of them have outlived their spouses, and many of them have outlived their children. I mean, the things that they have experienced in their lifetime and everything is constantly changing for them. Um, and just their grace and their ability to love God, even though maybe the plan hasn't unfolded the way that they thought it would unfold.
Mhm.
Nobody really gets a happy ending. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's really not true, but I mean, you can't live life without suffering.
Yeah.
And it's suffering that transforms you. I guess only speak for myself. It is in times of hardship that I've grown.
Mhm.
And so we were kind of talking about that on the way here. Like those times mature you.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do.
If you allow them to.
That's true.
That's true.
Because some people are just running around like babies still, big old babies in diapers.
Mhm.
They don't know how weird it looks.
I think there's a therapy for that.
I think so.
Yes. And so it's so cool because I grew up in the church. You know, my grandpa and my dad were both pastors. My grandfather founded our church in sweet little James, Methodist James. I met him in college and I became a therapist. So he can have therapy anytime
Anytime.
he wants to or doesn't want to.
Sometimes we'll be having discussions, and I'll have to say, "You're not my therapist."
Oh, yeah.
But I think I am.
Yeah. I
At
have
some
a
point
therapist. You're not.
Ouch. No, I you mean, like, don't you think God led you to a therapist wife for a reason?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Not for therapy, though.
No, but there are things that you helped me with for sure.
Of course, and
Mhm.
you've helped me with.
Yeah.
James helped me, learn how to apologize.
It's
Oh.
still a work in
I'm
progress.
terrible at
Oh,
apologizing.
okay.
I'm hardly ever wrong. That's part of the problem.
Oh,
It's hard to
wow.
apologize. You're not wrong.
Hey, we even got a response out of Taylor. That's pretty awesome.
Welcome to my world, Taylor.
Yeah. So, episode with Dr. McCrae, Dr. Castellano,
Mhm.
Dr. Nick.
Mhm.
That episode with him happened on such an epic day. I didn't
Mhm.
know. Here's what's really interesting. Because I have not planned the topics,
Yeah.
um, these podcasts have released at just the right time.
Isn't that wild?
It's the weirdest experience.
It's
Like, I
supernatural,
think
yeah.
people, and I'll say this in episode 12 now,
Mhm.
I think that there's a number of people that believe that I intentionally recorded a podcast and released it right when things were happening. And I
Yeah.
never did that.
No, he literally doesn't know what he's coming to talk
No,
about.
I
Like,
have no idea. And that is, for me, that's the nature of this podcast,
yeah.
is that we can show up and have a conversation,
Yeah.
and somehow it's going to fit in the right time
Yeah.
and the right place.
Mhm.
Last week, I was here in the studio with
Mhm.
Taylor recording episode 12, what I thought was going to be
Mhm.
episode 12. And
Mhm.
after I recorded it, I went home and I sat on it and I thought, that's not episode 12. It's just not.
Mhm.
It didn't feel right. It wasn't the right season.
Mhm.
It was more about me releasing some stuff that was in my heart.
Mhm.
And so once I released that, I thought, that's out of my heart now. Yeah, we're not going to
Mhm.
release that one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe someday when I die, somebody will release that episode and you'll get to find out what
Be like
what
secret
I was
episode
feeling.
12.
Right? I mean, if Elvis can have a secret track, I can have a secret episode,
Ron's secret
12.
episode.
Right?
Maybe it's for
Yeah.
sale. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, everything has a price.
We'll get your Patreon going.
Oh
I
my
love it.
gosh.
So the conversation with Dr. Nick, right?
So good.
So good, and gotten a lot of feedback. Seeing is receiving.
Seeing is receiving.
And he
Mhm.
talked about what's really
Mhm.
crazy is he talked about, you believe that death comes in threes? Well, it does, because you believe it. And Julie and James, as God is my witness, the week after that,
Mhm.
death came in
Oh.
threes. And I was just like,
Oh.
doggone it. Like,
Yeah.
I tried not to
Yeah.
think about it.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes I have trouble with that. There's like a secular theory that is whatever you put out into the universe, it comes back to
Mhm.
you. And so, that is a biblical concept. And like in Christianity, we say it like you reap what you sow. Um, but I don't always know that that applies to all situations. So that put on my therapist brain that I think I can't say to a victim of sexual assault or physical abuse or, well, you were abused because you put that out into the universe. Like there
Yeah.
are,
No, I don't believe
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Say that. That's right.
that
Mhm.
doesn't, that's like re-victimization and it's like
Mhm.
blaming the victim. Like I just can't,
And I don't think that's
get
what
with
Dr.
that.
Nick was
Oh,
addressing.
no,
No.
no, no. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that there's a secular theory, and I just want to separate from that right now.
I'm
That
so
that's
glad
not
you
what
did.
he meant.
That needed
And
clarity.
yeah, because there are things that happen because of me, right? There are things that's like reap what you sow, or maybe because I put that out there and it returned to me this way. But then also there are things that happen to you,
Correct.
Mhm.
and you have no control over
No.
that. I hate that.
Yeah.
I
It's true.
spent like 5 weeks in Celebrate Recovery on step 1 because step 1 is I am powerless.
I am powerless.
And I would come every week. You guys did it as a staff.
Yes, we did.
And then
which led us to do it.
our church, we were like, well, let's do it. Let's do it as a staff. And every week they would be like, okay, we're moving on to step 3. And I'm like, step 1.
Yeah.
I am not powerless. I'm not saying it, but I am.
Mhm.
And actually, there's freedom in that.
A whole lot of freedom.
But there's also a lot of vulnerability
Mhm.
because I can't control what happens to me.
Mhm.
I can control what I sow, but I can't control what happens around me or to me. And that is
I know.
very hard to accept.
Mhm. I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
Yeah,
Who
because I
would?
do like to control everything.
Yeah.
I always say this. I'm not a control freak, but I really like to be in control.
Yeah.
And so that's why I can barely ride in a car with anyone. You know,
So guilty. So
in that
guilty.
passenger seat, it's vulnerable
Mhm.
because you're not in control. And just think about that in the context of your life. To ride in the passenger seat in your life seems very vulnerable.
Uh-huh.
And so it's hard to get past that.
It is. That's interesting. Wow.
Didn't you have you had any podcasts this season's that what? Have you had any podcasts this season that where you really explored vulnerability?
Yes.
Hmm.
Episode number 11.
Oh, just the last episode.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
behind.
this
I am
previous
too.
episode.
Mhm.
It releases tomorrow.
Well, that's why we haven't heard
Yeah,
it.
you
Well,
haven't heard it
perfect.
yet.
Okay, I'm off the
But you'll
hook.
get to hear it. I sit down with Justin and Pastor Joey at Lift Church
Mhm. Oh.
on the stage there. We were
Mhm.
there recording a couple of podcasting episodes in person.
I'm super upset about that, by the way.
Oh, I know.
They didn't invite me.
You're here.
I have FOMO, James.
You can't be in every podcast.
I can't be
and
everywhere,
in every
but I want to
location.
be.
But see, I have the same thing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like wherever the party is, that's where I want to
Yeah.
be.
Hey.
Yeah.
come on.
I want to be with the gathering. I'm very gregarious.
Oh, gregarious.
Big word. We brought that word up this morning at the house before we left. We said just random words, like
Oh,
some big word.
did I
and-
miss that one?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Maybe
gregarious was one
Your
of them.
subconscious heard it.
It's the
Mhm.
twin inside of me.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
Do people know that about you, that you're a twin?
I don't know, but they
Mhm.
do now. Yeah.
My daily bread people do.
Yeah. My daily bread people do. I am a twin. I have a twin sister. She's beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah.
And she's super quiet and
she's so
reserved. And
quiet.
it's so funny because
She
you
is
are the exact
exactly
opposite.
my opposite.
Yes.
Mhm. She has straight hair. I have curly hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
She
She's a
doesn't like
thinker.
charcuterie. I love charcuterie.
She does not
Oh
like charcuterie.
no, don't. She
What's
thinks
not
that's
to
the
like?
weirdest thing to eat in the world.
Oh,
Yeah,
do tell Rhonda.
I could think
Yeah.
much weirder things.
she can too. She'll let you know.
Tartar. That's one of them. That's
Tar-
one right there.
Just out of left field. Tartar.
So
Okay, go back.
So
So you were
episode 11
Yes,
gets
and you were in
really
Venice.
vulnerable. It was in
Mhm.
Venice, Florida, at
Mhm.
Lift Church, and we have the conversation of why do we have to suffer?
Mhm.
And in that episode, we hit a vein of conversation that brings us all to tears.
Mhm.
And just owning the vulnerability of suffering was uncomfortable enough
Mhm.
to make that episode a really sacred episode
Yeah.
from my perspective.
Yes.
I'm sure.
So
Mhm.
I'm really excited for you guys to see that.
Mhm.
And I'm really excited for where we're going in our conversation
Mhm.
because that one was so heavy.
Yeah.
That was a really tough topic. We were not only were we talking about suffering, but we were in the book of Job. And I told people in episode 11, I dislike that book
Yeah. You
Yeah,
have
so
said that quite a few
much.
times on
because it
Daily.
seems like every time we read the book of Job, we have to experience the book of Job.
Yes. Right.
And the book of Job is riddled with suffering, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And
Incurable.
incurable.
Incurable
Yeah.
suffering. Yeah.
And it was laced with
Mhm.
3 friends and this so-called know-it-all
Yeah. And
that
So
a
close.
made
nagging
his
wife.
suffering seem
So-called
worse.
Yes.
friends.
And
With friends like those, who needs enemies?
right? Yeah.
I
Well,
will say they did come and sit with him, though, at the beginning, right?
Yeah, but is that so wonderful?
but
Well-
should they get up and walk off sometime if you don't have
Yeah.
anything positive to say? You can't say anything nice, then go
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. So
Adios.
I agree.
so as we move into this episode,
Mm-hmm.
let's know more about James and Julie. I want to
Okay.
know more. Let's know more about your guys' story. Let's let the people who sit by and listen to us study scripture every day,
Mm-hmm.
hear from your lives. What's
Okay.
going on in your lives? What are some things in your life that you're experiencing right now? What are some messages that you
Mm.
feel are necessary to get out to people who are interested in growing in the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
in being discipled,
Mm-hmm.
and becoming the best versions of themselves, aka who God called them to be?
Yes. I designed.
Yeah. Wow. I think for me, when I was able to embrace who I am
Okay.
and not feel as though I needed to be someone else.
Oh, wow.
Um, it goes back to a youth camp, and there was a young man there, and he was talking to me about his situation. He was from a church, and kind of like our church, it was a family church that had been, around for a long, long time. And he came to me and he started asking me questions about, he's just different,
Mhm.
in that setting, and so I started answering all these questions, for him about this and about that, and well, it's okay, you be you. You don't have to be, this person. Be you. And I'm saying these words, and they're coming out of my mouth. And then all of a sudden, the conversation was over, and it was like I got hit by a Mack truck, and I was like, "Oh, you're talking to yourself." Because I say that because when we became the pastors of the church, I felt this tremendous pressure to be something
Mm.
else,
Mhm.
and and I just had to come to that realization, like I will never be Julie's grandfather. No one will.
How did you come to that realization?
It was just in those moments. It was really just
Pretty quick
an
on
insight.
like
Uh,
sermon 1.
yeah, it was like an
It's really
insight.
hard to do
It was like an
it.
insight of the Holy Spirit, like because I felt like the pressure. I didn't grow up in a charismatic church.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
didn't grow up in church, and so
Mm.
and that's another story we can tell
Sure.
later. But I ended up in a Methodist church, through a series of events. Met
A
Julie.
neighbor.
It was a friend. A friend's
Yes.
mom told him. I thought we weren't going to get into it right now, but
It's so good.
anyway,
It's a good part of
so
your story.
yeah, so yeah, a friend of mine's mother told him to invite me to church.
Uh-huh.
Why, I will never know. But I do now. I feel like the
Mhm.
Lord had ordained
Yes,
me to
of
be
course.
sitting
Oh,
in this
sure he
seat right
did.
now.
Right.
And so, and I had to get here somehow. And so there was a lot of steps that took place, but
Mhm.
but I it was a very traditional 1 hour service. You stand up now, you sit down now, you pray now, you sing now,
And it
you
is
listen
1
now.
hour, by God.
Oh yeah, 12
I
o'clock.
don't know how they ever did that.
12 o'clock, people are like looking at their watch, and some people would get up and walk out.
Mhm.
And so, but it was a great church. I learned a lot. I loved, being there,
Mhm.
and it got me to where I am today. But that's what I knew. And then, I started doing children's ministry. I was back in the back of the church for 21 years,
Mhm.
and then came up.
Wait. Say that again. How
Yeah,
many years?
21 years. I served as a children's pastor at our church.
And why did you start serving as the children's
I
ministry?
mean,
How did you begin to
it's no
volunteer?
secret. I just wanted to be with Julie. I, d-
And I was
yeah,
Oh,
she did the children's ministry,
sorry.
and so I started.
everybody see the little hearts on the
Yeah,
screen right
yeah.
now.
So cute. It was so
No, it's a
cute.
fact. I
So
mean, that's why I
cute.
wanted to go to church. That's why I just wanted to be with her.
What a great motivation. I
Yeah,
love
and
that.
so she was leading, and I was kind of on the sidelines. And then as time went
Beautiful
by,
face without a name.
And then I
yeah,
had too many
Yeah.
babies and I couldn't do it
yeah.
anymore.
Once she had Lexi, when we had our first child, then I kind of took over back there, and I stayed back there for many years. And then someone finally in the church saw that there was a different future for me, and offered to start helping in kids church so that I could be in church, more,
Mhm.
and people would get to know me, not
Mhm.
as the children's pastor, but as a future leader of the church. And so that was an awesome experience. But I was just, I just felt so much pressure to be her grandfather, Julie, Brother Van, or to be Pastor Rick. I mean, there's no, Pastor Rick is Pastor Rick, and the way he
Yeah.
story tells and elicits the word and draws you in, and then has you like at the edge of tears, and then at the plate of chocolate cake within seconds,
Oh yeah, you're laughing, you're
crying,
crying,
yeah,
you're inspired, you're questioning.
Mhm.
horrified,
Twisted.
all within a 10-minute period of time. And then Julie is a phenomenal preacher,
Mhm.
absolutely incredible. And I'm thinking to myself, that's what I need to be. If I'm going to pastor this church, that's what I need to be. That's who I need to be. And then I just kept processing that, and it was so hard. That's not who I am. And so as I was sharing with this man at camp, I felt in the Holy Spirit say, "You're talking to yourself."
Mhm.
And then he walked away, and I stood there like, "Oh my goodness, I can't be them because I'm not them." And so I, went back from camp, and my very next sermon was just be me.
Isn't that an interesting uh this is an interesting conversation to have as leaders in the church, because the message we're constantly hearing is Elisha had a responsibility to be like
Mhm.
Elijah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Joshua had a responsibility to be
Mhm.
like Moses,
Mhm.
To take the mantle,
to
right?
take the
Yeah.
mantle.
Mhm.
And we confuse taking the mantle with delivering the same way they delivered.
Or the
Right.
personality, absorbing that person's personality.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So even when we served in children's ministry together, I'm loud and I'm expressive and I'm like, "Good morning. I'm so glad you're here." And that's overwhelming to quiet children.
Yeah.
Some kids are like,
All the
"I'm
introverts
not
were like,
Yeah.
going in
no
there."
way.
They're like clinging to their
Holding on
parents'
to their
leg.
mom, like, "Don't leave me with this
No.
crazy woman." But we noticed that as we served together, that quiet or introverted kiddos would kind of just be drawn to him,
Mhm.
and like kids I couldn't reach, he could reach because he just has a different. That I think this is one thing that I really love about James is that he has a quiet, calming spirit, and I do not have that, but he has that. And that's why I was drawn to him. I'm sure that's part of it. And because he was super cute. That was another reason. And when I first saw him the very first time, he did take a jacket, somebody's jacket, turned it inside out. It was gold lame on the outside, and he
Inside, yeah.
spun on his back.
It was like a big, what do you know, those down coats?
You were doing breakdancing?
I mean, I
he
can
was
do a little.
breakdancing and he spun on his back, and I was like, he is really cute. I want to be introduced.
She did. She said, she asked who I was. I was
Wait, this was not at church. This was at school?
No, this is at our university. So his
University.
fraternity was paired with my sorority to write a musical. And the very first thing I ever said to James was a smart aleck comment.
Shocker.
Horrible. I mean, it is a
Wait.
miracle.
You
that
know I have to ask what the comment was now.
So we wrote this musical. We have a script. We're supposed to be off script. We're at a rehearsal. We're supposed to be off script. And he has 2 lines. And he comes up with the script and he's reading his lines. And I was like, you don't know your lines? You got 2
Oh.
lines.
And I walked over to my friend. I was like, who is she?
No, he did this. He just smiled at me real big, like, I don't know why you're talking to me like that.
And I'm signing up to hear that for the next 30
Oh, what you did not know. Like, it's so funny. But
what
yeah.
was what was the process for you? What was the process like removing the layers of expectation to be Papa Van and to be Pastor Rick? What was the process like for you? Because you didn't walk that out in one Sunday?
Oh, no.
No, but I did kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off and
Okay.
accept it because it's still hard. And I mean, to this day, I don't have it perfected by
Sure.
any stretch. Like there's times when I still like, get a little excited and I'm like, oh, easy. That's,
The little Methodist part comes out of him. Keep it under control.
Hey,
Keep it
take
under
it easy,
control.
take it easy. And so, but I came back that very next Sunday and I preached that sermon to be me. I said to the congregation, like, I will never be Brother Van. I will never be Pastor Rick, and I cannot be Pastor Julie, but I promise you that I will be the best James that I can be.
I love that.
And I will love, people.
Mhm.
And I've never claimed to be the greatest preacher, but I will do the best at being the best pastor
You're an amazing
and a
pastor.
lover
He
of
is.
people.
Mhm.
Because I've been through some stuff and I know what it's like to need love and acceptance and understanding. And so that's what I try to offer our congregation, or anybody else that I come in contact with. My goal in life, my mission statement is that if you meet me, that you will know someone that loves the Lord,
Mhm.
that loves his wife and his family, and that someone loves you and cares about you. And if I succeed in that, then I feel like I've succeeded in the mission that God has called me to do. And right now, that is to be the pastor of our church and to love people.
Mhm.
And that's just what I try to do.
Pastor James, those of you watching, is one of those really close relationships for me, especially since Pastor Brian has gone away. I get to have this great connection with this man who loves God and loves people. He's authentic
He's authentic.
and he's
Mhm.
safe. And one of the prayers that I prayed last year was, God, surround me with good, godly people. Not perfect people.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't even like to be around perfect
She's
people.
close,
Seemingly
but
perfect.
just ask her.
Mhm.
Close,
Just
right?
ask me, I'll tell you.
But Pastor James, how you are one of those relationships for me
Yeah.
blesses my
I feel
heart.
the
And
same
I
way.
know you as someone that's really loving. I know you as a really good pastor. And I love, you even brought that out on Sunday when you were speaking, that Julie's a great preacher, and your heart is to be a great pastor.
Right.
And I love that about you. How was the
Mhm.
process for you in him accepting and realizing that he didn't need to be your grandpa or your dad? How was that process for
I mean,
you?
I would say that James has always put a lot of pressure on himself. I didn't really understand when we were very first married that, he was always concerned about being a good provider. And one thing that I feel like that has just caused our marriage relationship to be so strong is that I can totally trust James.
Hmm.
If there was something bad happening in our family, or if we needed money, like there is nothing he wouldn't do.
I
There
agree.
is no job that he would consider beneath himself. Like he's hardworking. I mean, this man will get up in the morning, make my coffee, pack my lunch. I mean, I tell him not to do that because it throws me off a little bit, like, because I'm super ADHD. And then I'm like, I don't know if I have my lunch. I don't know where my bag is. He's like, I put it in your car. I got it all taken
I
care
don't
of.
do
I'm
it
like,
anymore.
no, because I was like, please, I love you, but please stop doing that because I just am befuddled when I walk out the door. I don't know what I have. And if I forget something, like, if I tell him, like, oh my gosh, like I forgot my computer, I forgot this. Believe it or not, I will go to work and forget my computer. It is an essential tool
Mhm.
for the day, but I will walk out of the house without it and he will
Uh-huh.
drive across town. I mean, it's not in his schedule, it's not convenient. I trust him with my whole heart. And that is foundational in our relationship, but it has also created this space where I also want to protect him. And so when he started to walk into leadership, I mean, it's not just like church leadership, it's legacy leadership.
Right.
It's hard for me. Like I grew
Oh,
up in
yeah.
it, I'm very familiar with it. And he is like a foreigner in a strange
Yeah.
land. He's like in Moab, or like Ruth, coming home, going with Naomi and not understanding any of this cultural experience. I remember when we were first married, he was like, I mean, how many times are we going to be at church every week?
Mhm.
And now I'm saying it to him like, dude, I need a break. Like I've been at church too much this week, especially when you work there.
Right.
It's a lot of hours. But I feel like I had to position myself in a role that if I wanted my husband to be a strong leader, which he has for surely become, it has been such a beautiful process to watch him bloom in front
Mm.
of our whole church. And we've all watched it happen. Like
Mhm.
it was nerve wracking for him. He would often get up to preach and apologize for, I know I'm not Pastor Rick. I know I'm not. And I would say after church, I would say, stop apologizing to
Yeah.
Yeah.
people. Be yourself because you are a beautiful person and what you have is a gift.
Mhm.
And isn't that true about each of us, though?
Yeah.
Right.
We're all designed with a gift that God has given us. And if I try to be someone else, I am denying the gift that God has placed inside of me. So I had to pull back,
Mhm.
right? And become his encouragement. Like, this was incredible. I loved this part of your sermon. And I feel like maybe this could have been an area where you could have stayed there a little bit longer because it was so good. But I think you were nervous to move on. And so, just
Sure.
conversations
Yeah.
like that we would
And I
have.
need that. I need that because sometimes, like, and I'm getting better at it. I'm not by any stretch perfect at it, but I'm getting better at getting away from the notes and feeling like I have to complete these 5 pages, you know, or, I didn't do what I was
It's an
supposed to do.
overwhelming feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like you spend all the time preparing, you feel like you're supposed to serve the whole meal
Mhm.
at once.
Yeah.
But really, no.
Right.
No.
And
It
she's really good
Yeah.
at that. Like
No, I don't I'm not.
no, you prepare a ton, but then you're also like for the example, the last couple sermons that you did, that was one sermon.
Mhm.
But we stopped, you stopped and then you did it the rest of the next week.
Well, my dad has always told me that, and it's true when you're speaking, like you can almost feel the crescendo of
Oh.
this message, and it might not be the end of your notes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So the wisdom in that is to not be tempted to be like, but this other stuff is so good. I really want to get to this, and just let the crescendo happen. And end right there, just that's where it
I
is
love
today.
that.
That's the
Mhm.
place where the spirit wants to stop today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
And
and being okay with that.
and that's being obedient to the Holy Spirit.
But
Yeah.
don't you think that is about, because I feel like this whole season has been about change,
Oh my
Yes.
about
goodness.
being courageous to change, about
Accepting change.
accepting change, even when it's hard,
Yeah.
even when it's suffering that's causing change.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's a central question to spiritual development in every single
Let's
human
go there.
being.
Go there.
Yeah, because a lot of people will say the reason they don't believe in God is because how could a loving God
Yeah.
allow,
Mhm.
a tsunami to rush into a city
Fill
and,
in the
and kill
blank.
innocent
Yeah.
people, or allow children to die from cancer, or to allow children to starve to death, or women to be abused and neglected? Like, how could a loving God allow these things to happen?
Legit question.
Yeah. And so my dad steered me towards a very tiny book when I was in college, and it's by I want to say his first name is Harold, Rabbi Harold Kushner. It's definitely Rabbi
Sounds
Kushner with
familiar.
a K, Kushner. And his book is Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And the answer is bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
Like,
Bad things
it's a
happen.
very simple,
It's
it is
simple.
not like
Uh-huh.
super deep, but sometimes the answer is just in the simple thing. Like, James is a good person. I mean, bad things have happened in his life. And
Mhm.
is that because he did something wrong? We were talking about Sunday, the blind man, when the Pharisees bring the blind man to Jesus and they say, who sinned, this man or his parents?
Yeah.
Right.
And Jesus, I love his answer. Neither.
Mhm.
But this bad thing happened. And because of that, I am going to demonstrate my glory through this bad thing.
Right.
So does God,
Genesis 50:20, right?
yeah, what the enemy meant for,
Evil, God will use for good, the
yes,
saving of many lives.
for the saving of
Ooh.
many lives. That's the key part right there. So did God create something bad to happen to me or cause something bad to happen to me so that other people could be saved? My opinion, no.
That's
But
my
he can
opinion.
use
Yeah.
it.
He will use it all.
Yeah. And there's perspective involved. Even in Genesis 50:20, right before that, when Joseph is addressing his brothers, he says, you sold me, but God sent me.
God sent me.
sent me.
Woo, yes.
And so
Yeah.
I cling to that. Genesis
Mhm.
50:20 is the scripture of my life. I believe the things that I've been through have been able to be used for a purpose.
Mhm.
When they happened, would I want to do it over again? No. But would I
Nope.
change it? Absolutely not. Because I've seen the end of that verse
Mhm.
happen, and it given people freedom to express what's happened to them.
See, I feel like I would change some suffering, and probably not for
Oh, absolutely.
not for myself, but for um
Family members.
yeah, like people
Mhm.
that I love that I see
Mm.
suffer. And we've just been in a season of suffering, and you know, before we entered into like a really difficult season, James had already clung to this scripture, and in fact had it tattooed on himself. Just totally outed
Not everybody
you.
knows I have tattoos, Julie.
He's got tattoos. And I tell
You
my
mean a pastor has tattoos?
okay, so
Yeah, come sit by me.
all these people that I love so much are all getting tattooed to death. And
Tattooed to
Pastor
death.
Brian and I would talk, and he'd be like, "Are you gonna get a tattoo?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not risking hell over a tattoo."
Oh my
And he's
God.
like, "Me either." And I was like, "I can't even decide on my hair color, let alone like permanent. It's permanent. You can't change it."
I loved what Aaron Wilburn said about tattoos. He said he used to think everyone that had a tattoo was going to hell until his son came home with one.
Yeah.
See?
Well, so if you don't know, you weren't raised in like
Right.
Pentecost, you may not know that tattoos were no, you
Mhm.
could not get a tattoo. So I've told my children, like, if you want to go to heaven and you get a tattoo, you better put a Bible scripture on it.
Oh my.
And be like, Apostle Peter, no, this is Genesis 50:20, boo. And he's like, okay, you're good. Come on in. I don't know
But
where I was going with all that.
I don't either, but on the topic of tattoos, like, because I've had people ask
Mhm.
me, haven't been brave enough. This is the first one that I ever had that could even peek out,
Of a shirt sleeve.
during church.
Uh-huh.
And so I've had people ask me, and for me, I'll just address it. For me, every tattoo on my body has a meaning.
Yep.
I mean,
Same.
Well, it should.
and it's very important to me.
Yeah.
Wait, don't you remember being at the water park yesterday?
Some of those don't have
Yeah,
meaning.
some of them didn't have meaning. I'm telling you
Sometimes
right
in
now.
Disney World, we
They
play
were
worst tattoo.
We-
I played that by myself
That's
yesterday.
actually
Oh, you should have said. So we will go to a theme park and we will say in our family text, like, okay, whoever gets the picture of the worst tattoo
I
today.
wish I would have had a camera.
We'll have to
The
buy, like,
worst
we'll buy
tattoo
Dippin'
I've
Dots
ever
or
seen
something for
yesterday.
whoever
Yeah.
wins.
And
It's a pretty
I
fun
kept
game.
thinking, man, I need to give them Isaac's card.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a whole TV show about it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like horrible tattoos.
Oh,
Is it
Oh yeah. And
Bad
then
Ink or something?
and then they go in and then the tattoo artist like fixes it.
Yeah.
But whew, man.
Anyway, so
I
this sounds like a My
digress.
Daily Bread
Yes.
episode.
this is everything that I have is very important to me.
Mhm.
It has a very deep meaning to me.
So let's go back to Genesis 50:20 because I feel
Okay.
like you were already attached to that scripture before we walked into a very difficult time of our
yeah,
life.
Oh, yeah.
that's what you're talking about.
And when you're in a pastoral role, everything that happens to you happens publicly.
Yeah.
And so that, Lauren and I were talking about that yesterday. I said, it is really hard to explain to people what it's like to grow up with everybody watching your every move. And then being openly opinionated
About it.
So that's happened my whole life.
Mm.
And I have learned a little bit to just like brush it off.
How long
Um,
did it take you to go from I want to punch you in the throat to brushing it off?
Oh yeah, I'm still at punch in the throat
Okay.
phase. Yeah, pray
okay.
for me.
I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Do
you know what?
Well, I went to a middle school dance. Okay, so this is like,
Oh, you went to a dance? You're
Oh, yes.
definitely going to hell.
See? Okay, see? So this had to be like 88, 87, 86 maybe. Okay, so I went to this dance and I mean, it was completely innocent. Like just a bunch of kids. There were chaperones. It was at the school. A family quit our church over that. And my parents tried to hide that from me. Oh, not hide, maybe protect me from that so I didn't feel responsible. But of course, some parents were probably talking about that in their home. And then it came back to me
Sure.
through the kids in the church that were like, well, they quit because your dad let you go to a school dance. And I was like, what? I mean, I was appalled that like
Mhm.
and then I felt all this guilt, like, oh my gosh, that's my fault because I begged my parents to let me go to this dance, which they were gonna let me go anyway. But I mean, I don't know. It's just a lot. It's a lot to grow up under that. And then to bring someone into it who hasn't really built up any skin. There's no
That's fair.
calluses
No,
there.
There's no
Fair, yeah.
calluses. Yeah.
But that's good because that's why James is a good pastor because, people want to quit and I'm like, bye. Because I've already learned that people are going to quit and leave. And I have to kind of be callous to that. But that scripture is really about Joseph coming to terms with the fact that the people who loved him and should have cared for him betrayed him.
Yeah.
And because of that, he suffered tremendously. We like to tell the story of Joseph like, oh, but it's all good. Like he became the leader of Egypt and he married a beautiful
Yeah, we
wife. And
only
he had
tell that
Ephraim
side
and
of it.
Manasseh.
Mhm.
Oh, it's all good.
He also sat in a prison
It's not good.
and got falsely accused. And
Yeah. Traumatized. Like his mom died and he wasn't there. Like he didn't get to be there to bury his mother. Like he was separated from his dad for all those thousands of years, thousands of days. I don't know,
Methuselah?
a long time.
Is that you?
I'm a great Bible teacher, just a
Facts.
little time skewed.
Yeah.
But I mean, he suffered like
Yeah, he did.
significantly, and I am grateful for the fact that the
And his
Bible is
suffering was a length of time.
Yeah.
long.
Long suffering. Mm.
So you just don't wrap that up in a tidy little bow and be like, but it was all better. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't all better. And that's maybe why the first year we read Job, I was also sick of Job. Like, dear God, how many more chapters are left in Job? This year, I have felt consoled.
I did at the end, finally, for the first time in my life,
Mm-hmm.
when my perspective changed about God.
Mm-hmm.
It brought me to change my mind on the way he was speaking to Job. I saw him.
Yes. Oh, that was
The
so good.
way he was speaking to Job changed for me this year. I finally saw it, the perspective of a loving father and not a domineering God.
Yeah, that
Yes.
God
And
wasn't
when
mad
that-
at him.
God was not mad at him.
Can you talk about that? Because you were talking about how this is like a father-son conversation. And the way
Mhm.
we've read it is that God is angry and he's like, Job, okay, just my version, where were you when I told the sun where to stand?
Mhm.
I mean, I was hearing it like smack,
Yeah.
like God is talking
Mhm.
smack. And then you started bringing that out about,
It changed. My perspective changed because my experience changed.
mhm,
Absolutely.
My experience was a very domineering gospel, a very speak down to ideology. That's how God addressed us as children. That we were children, but we were more of
in
like
trouble.
in
We're in
trouble, like
trouble. Yeah.
punished children.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Pastor B helped me change my perspective when
Mhm.
he fathered me and he taught me in discipline. He would come to me and say, "Hey, how would you, if you had to do that over again, how would you do that differently?"
Mhm.
That changed my life
Mhm.
because I was never approached in that style of parenting before until Pastor Brian and Penny.
Yeah.
And so when I read Job this time, the end of the chapter, and I heard God's reply to Job, I stopped looking at that word God as the supreme being that is distant from me
Mhm.
and replaced every time I saw God in my own heart, I
Mhm.
replaced it with Father.
Yes. Yes.
Then Father replied to Job. And when I
Mhm.
put God back in his proper perspective
Mhm.
as being
Mhm.
Father, then I understood the context of the conversation was, here, son, let's sit down and
Come
talk
over
about
here.
this. Let's talk about this. Sit on my lap here for a minute.
Mhm.
Let me tell you how
Mhm.
this really is. And now, like, I don't have natural children, but I have a lot of kids that I really love. I love
Yes.
Colby, my
Yes.
little nephew Colby.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
now I can approach that relationship
Mhm.
from that side of things instead of being the one that's always like disciplined, like, let me tell you what to do. Like,
Mhm.
let me speak down. I don't like to be spoken down to.
Yeah, most people
So
don't.
I don't want to
None
speak
of us
down to
do.
anyone.
So why did you tell Colby at the jump
Oh
trampoline
yeah, well
place
that's
you
it's
lost?
you lost. Mhm.
Because there's winners and there's losers.
It was a total guy thing.
Yeah.
They were playing some little trampoline game, and
We
it's
were
like
playing the video game on the
and
trampoline.
it's a video game. And so you
Mhm.
have to like jump and try to stomp on the other person. And I said, Ron, you better let that baby win.
Yeah.
And he said, we
Mm-mm.
don't do that in
Not
our
every
family.
kid gets
Yeah.
a
And then he was
trophy.
like, stop, number 10. And then he looked at Colby and said, you lost. And I was like, oh, that's it. You're getting Dippin' Dots. Come with me.
Yeah. I
Ron had
love
stomped
that.
me before I even knew
I
what the
did.
game was happening. I didn't know
I'm
what the
highly
game was.
competitive.
He's
I
like-
love to play
He's like,
games.
let's play stomp. And I'm
but
like,
I love to win.
I was like,
too.
what's stomp? And then all of a sudden I'm fucking flat.
like that was hilarious.
Like flat.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, so funny. That was so fun.
Yeah.
Like,
But
oh, that's
I
what
mean,
stomp.
that's good, right? Because
Mhm.
men condition children different
Mhm.
than women do,
Mhm.
and that's good.
Yep.
Like that's good.
Totally necessary.
Mhm.
My mom did one time though. Um, she encouraged me to punch someone.
Oh.
It was beautiful.
Hmm. Well, you know, I
And I
encourage
did it, and I
someone to
broke my
punch.
knuckle.
Oh,
Mhm.
was it worth it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I'd do
well,
it again.
there you go. Right.
Mhm. I missed the throat.
I was going for the throw, accidentally hit the collarbone. A swing and a miss.
Yeah.
So I was talking about how I was sharing this in church one Sunday about how my dad also encouraged me to fight. I had a girl in my middle school. Middle school is just awful. Like it's survival of the fittest,
yeah.
right?
It is, yeah.
So I had somebody that was threatening me constantly to beat me up. And
Mhm.
my dad was like, listen, next time she says it, just punch her. First punch, best punch. And then run. That was his advice. My pastor dad, like punch her and then you're
Punch and run.
fast, run away. And so
Mhm.
I'm telling this in church and I'm like laughing, ha ha ha,
And what was I doing?
twisting.
Oh,
So
my
whenever I
God.
say things that make James uncomfortable, if you watch on our online, he'll cross his feet and then he crosses his legs and then he's like, I mean, by the end of the sermon,
They call me
he's like
Contortionist, huh?
eagle
No,
arms.
pretzel. They call me the pretzel. They call me the pretzel.
Pastor
said-
B was this is how we
Yeah,
knew
he-
Brian was
he
uncomfortable.
rolls
Yeah, a neck roll.
And once I realized that was a signal that he didn't like what someone was doing, I just would watch for the neck roll. I'd be
Mhm.
like, me too. I thought that was stupid too.
Oh, my
So,
gosh.
what was I saying? Oh, so this kid, I'm telling this story, and this little girl that I love so much in our church, Avery. And she is a tiny little thing. And so her parents texted me the next day and they were like, hey, just wanted you to know that Avery punched someone in school. And it was like the Monday after the sermon. And I'm texting back, oh no, I'm so sorry. I think she felt free.
and then got
Reach out and
detention.
touch somebody.
Did you go buy her some boxing gloves?
Lay hands on them. They shall recover.
They shall recover.
But suffering is a part of life, and it
Mhm.
isn't always good for us to ease the suffering of our children, even in small ways. I mean, that is difficult. That is difficult to do. I remember when my oldest daughter was in middle school and she was crying over something. It was just devastating. It was something really hurt her feelings with a friend. And I was saying, oh, I think it's because she was changing schools and she was going to leave behind her best friend. They were going to be going to different schools. And I was saying, I'm going to make sure that you and Lainey are still going to be in touch. And I'm going to do this. And I'm going to, I'm doing all the fix it talk. And she said, Mom, you can't help me with this. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm powerless, right? It took me right back to I am powerless. There are some things.
That's like I mean, that hits the heart deep
It
down.
does.
I feel that.
Mom,
When it's your
you can't help
kids,
me with this.
it's a whole different thing.
Well, like if Colby said it to you, if he was like, Ro, you can't help me with this, you'd be like, oh, yes, I can.
Who can I go missing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know people.
I know people.
Mhm.
I probably shouldn't tell that.
Yeah. I know people that know
I know
people.
people. We had a situation. Nope, I'm not telling that story.
Don't
Never
do it.
mind. Not
Don't
telling
do
that
it.
story.
I
might need to hold on to that
Some
for someday.
things need to stay. What did we say on the way here? There's
Say
things that
on
you
the
can tell
secret one.
Mhm.
you can tell
Yeah.
people, and then there's other things that will go to
You
the
Bonus
grave.
just go to the
content.
grave,
Patreon.
Yeah.
Bonus content, everyone.
Man, yeah.
So,
My
like
goodness.
I have this message series that I feel like the Lord really gave me called The Power of a Made Up Mind. And that if you've ever tried to put a toddler in a car seat and they have made up their mind that they're not going in it, I mean, you are like wrestling an alligator because they're all their might,
Or they
like,
go like stiff.
their whole body's like,
Yeah. And you're
like the goats,
you're
right?
like
Yeah.
pushing
Pushing
them
their
down and
hips,
trying
like-
to click the
like they're
thing
gonna
first.
weaken in a minute, and then like, pow, got him.
And then you're like, step out of the car. And you're like,
Gosh, that was so hard. And now they're screaming bloody murder
Yeah.
because they've made up their mind that they're not
Yeah.
going to like that. And if you make them do that, they're going to make you miserable. Like it's going to, you're going to have to pay. But I think that spiritually for myself, like I am just going to make up my mind right now, come hell or high water. I'm on the Lord's side. And that's where I'm going to live. Like I'm just making up my mind. And we started studying Nehemiah and all
I
the
love
gates.
Nehemiah.
yeah.
You think you know the word, and then you launch into some kind of study, and you're like, "What?
Yep.
Mind blown! Wow!" I mean, it's just incredible, and how after all that devastation, Jerusalem was utterly destroyed. I mean, I think there's times in our life where we have felt utterly destroyed
Yes.
by people that we loved
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that we worked so hard to love and so hard to encourage them, and we let them in. We were vulnerable with them, and pow, they used it against us in a horrible way. And so you see this devastation
And
in
that's happened more than
Jerusalem.
once. That's not a one-time
That's
deal.
not,
Oh,
yeah.
No,
Mhm.
and it'll probably happen again,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because that's just the nature of
It's nature.
people. I mean, people are fallible and flawed. And so I love this in Nehemiah, where the word of God says that the people had a mind to work, which means they had a
Mm.
mind to rebuild.
Yeah.
So you're either going to live here, Julie, in devastation and destruction, or you're going to have a mind to work and you're going to have the
Say that.
yes,
Mhm.
and rebuild one brick at a time. And I'll tell you what, the Lord had strategically placed people in my life, specifically 3 women years before that I had been developing friendship and relationship with. And if I wouldn't have had those women, I don't know. And I had James, like I always had
Yeah.
James, don't get me wrong, but like,
But they give you things that
well, yeah, it's how
Yeah.
James can't be everything.
No.
To me, that's exhausting. I mean, I have to live with myself 24/7. I know I am exhausting. I can't get away from myself.
Mhm.
But these friends were very central to me in just recognizing God had already positioned me for a rebuilding phase and that I don't need this. I don't need to repair what's out there. I need to come back here to this devastated place and rebuild
Yeah.
and just make up my mind that I'm going to do that. And every day is a part of that
Mhm.
process.
Well, and I think part of that, since you brought up Nehemiah, is recognizing that there are times when you're going to be placing bricks with one hand and the sword in the other hand.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and that was a conclusion that I came to, several years ago. I had gone through something. I had
Mhm.
someone had prophesied over me that, and it's a crazy story, but I was at church one night and this man came to me, Ron Vaughn, came to me and he said, someone's going to try to destroy your good name, and then he walked away, and I was like, okay,
I'm gonna need the rest of that story.
yeah,
Right.
So,
I'm gonna need you to
yeah,
talk to Jesus and get some more
yeah,
details.
and so then he came back at the end of the service and he said, "You just do the right thing and you'll be fine."
I
And
hate that part,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's true.
And so,
Mhm.
months went
Yeah.
by, months went
Yeah.
by, and I was like, we were walking one time, and I just jokingly said to her, "Well, I guess I made it." Well, then right after that,
All hell
it
broke
all
loose.
broke
Mhm.
loose.
Oh, wow.
And so I remember one day I was down at the altar, and I was just devastated,
Mhm.
and I was very emotional. And a man in our church, Elliot Polston, came up behind me and he put his hand on my back, and he just said, "You're Nehemiah, and your ministry will be your Nehemiah." And
Wow.
and I was like,
I see that
first I
again.
didn't really like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and then he said, like, you're gonna be pastoring, and you're gonna be fighting off attacks,
And rebuilding.
yeah, and rebuilding your whole life. And that's a scary thing to think about.
It sure is.
But there's also comfort in knowing that the Lord knows me.
Mhm.
And for him to send, like he always does that, right? There's always people that will come and give you that word, that'll speak that over you. I have people in my life now, that people that I didn't even expect that it would be them,
Mhm.
that will call me or text me at precisely the right moment. When I'm driving in my car and, thinking about this or thinking about that.
It's amazing
And
how
then all
that
of a sudden my
happens.
phone buzzes and I'm like, "Oh, there's Adam again, right on
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
There's Ron again.
Mhm.
There's Carrie again,
It's
right on
always on
time.
time.
Always on time." Or,
And Carrie's a guy, or else I would block her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie,
I'd be like, oh no, Carrie.
yeah.
Not you,
No,
Carrie.
baby.
No.
Yeah. Carrie
You
is
about to get blocked
yeah.
or throat punched at the altar.
Carrie's a rock, man.
I
Carrie
love it.
Higgs.
Yes, he has driven to our house because he knew I was going through something,
Mhm.
and sat in front of our house, and then texted me a little while later and said, "I came over to talk. You didn't answer my text, so I'm going to go on home. I know everything's
Or I
okay."
sat out in front of your house and prayed for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
Mm.
So
Man, what a friend.
yeah.
Mhm.
What a friend.
He-
And the thing about Nehemiah is that he inspired because of his tenacity to say, like, listen, this looks bad, but we don't have to live like this.
right.
Like we're gonna rebuild, we're gonna start over. So his passion and his desire to transform or to change motivated all the priests. And then
Yes.
you have Eliashib and all them are like, okay, well, the first thing we're gonna rebuild is the sheep gate, because that's the gate where
Mm.
the lambs walk in. I mean, that is
Mm.
powerful.
Start going down those avenues. We'll be here all day.
Mm.
The first thing we're going to do is make room for the forgiveness of God and the
Yeah.
sacrifice
Yeah.
to come in. It wasn't the security, it wasn't their homes. The first thing they repaired was the gate where the forgiveness of God could flow.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
And
sacrificial
so
lambs.
the first thing they do is pray. They're like, let's pray. But they were inspired to do that because someone saw suffering and was like, I'm just going to make up my mind right now that I'm not going to live in this area of devastation, but I'm going to start rebuilding it. If I'm the only one doing it,
Mhm.
but you won't be,
No.
because
Mm-mm.
other people will be inspired by your change.
Your courage
Your courage.
will spark courage in another person's heart.
Yes.
And they will start, they'll see you stand up, and they'll know that because you stood up, they can stand
They
up
can stand
too.
up too.
And one
Mhm.
becomes two, and two becomes four,
Mhm.
and four become eight, and eight, 16, and it just
Mhm.
keeps exponentially, it keeps on growing.
Yes.
It can't help itself but continue to grow, because we are all looking for someone else to take that stand so that we can have the courage to take the stand too.
I'm so sorry about my phone right
That's
now.
all right.
But
So
I
fun.
want to I had written something in a note for a sermon. I actually took a picture of it. Um oh, dear God. Sorry.
We're good.
Okay. All right, everybody.
It's really good.
Here, no. Let me find it. So I was talking about, when you get injured, I can only speak for me. Like the first thing that happened to me when I feel injury is I want to pull in. Like
Mhm.
I think I can't trust anybody because I trusted like these people in my life, and look where that got me.
Yes,
Like that
I do know that.
that's
I think the
dumb.
greatest hurts we ever have in our lives are from people that we
Well, sure, I
trust. I
could
mean,
care less if I don't know
I
you.
going back to my
You don't like
childhood,
me.
the greatest hurts I have are people that I trusted.
That we trusted.
That abused that trust, or
Yeah.
they betrayed you, like Joseph,
Yeah.
I mean, he's betrayed by the very people, his brothers. He's the little
Mhm.
brother. They should have been protecting him. But I had written all these things that what shame causes.
Oh yeah, say that.
But can I read it differently?
Yes, you
Because you
can.
have to be vulnerable. It's not possible to live a healthy life. I mean, psychology tells us this, but the word of God is way ahead
Mhm.
of psychology. But you cannot live a healthy life without being in relationship with other people. So you
Mhm.
can't isolate. That's a trick. That
Mhm.
is, it will destroy you. You
Divide
have,
and conquer.
yes, you have to
Mhm.
have connection. And in order to have connection, you have to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
Because in order for me to develop close friendships, now I have a different recognition that I have allowed you into a special place of my life, which means that you could hurt me.
Mhm.
And I'm risking it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Risk it to get the biscuit.
It's hard to
You
do.
gotta risk it. Is that a Midwest thing? Y'all don't say that here.
We don't say that
Okay,
here.
all right,
No.
not Phoenix. So I want to read this in the opposite. I wrote what shame causes, but I want to say it differently. I want to say what vulnerability. Vulnerability creates courage,
Mm.
right? Because once I can stand in the face of my fear, like I'm gonna connect deeply with these people that God has placed in my life. And I realize there's a risk there that they could hurt me, but I'm gonna do it anyway,
Mhm.
then that vulnerability makes me courageous. And vulnerability helps me know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm worthy of love
Yeah,
because I can be my authentic self.
that's so good.
And if that means that we're at Penny's house and we're all having coffee and my hair looks atrocious and I have mascara under my eyes, that y'all still love me.
That's right.
And you don't see me often. You know, we
No.
don't see each other often. Next time you see me, if I'm 10 pounds heavier, which I hope not,
So
or
what?
I'm 10 pounds lighter,
Wonderful.
blessed be the name of the Lord.
Mhm.
But you're gonna, you have people that are gonna love you regardless. And when you can be vulnerable and honest with people, it tells you without a shadow of a doubt that you're worthy to be loved. And that vulnerability makes me belong. Instead of, I think people are worried that, well, okay, I'll speak for myself. I think I am worried sometimes if I am my authentic, real self, that it will disconnect me
Yep.
from people. But
Mhm.
actually, being authentic causes people to want to be connected to you,
Yeah, it's true.
right?
100%.
So vulnerability can do a lot of beautiful things for us, and shame will pull people into isolation,
Mhm.
but vulnerability will help you create connection.
That's so good.
Feels opposite though, doesn't it?
It does. It feels
Yeah.
absolutely opposite.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's counterintuitive. Like when you have to learn how to water ski, you have to actually lean back. It feels like you want to
You want to lean.
pull up,
Mhm.
right? Because it's counterintuitive. So you have
Mhm.
to train yourself to do something different. And by the way, I think it was last summer that I realized I can't water ski anymore. My hip. I couldn't put any weight on my right leg. And I was like, what the tarnation?
Yeah. There's
It was
lots of things.
humiliating. It really
As we
was.
get older, the things that we used to do with ease, it's over with.
No
Oh, it's
longer.
done. Yeah, absolutely.
I can't play sports anymore.
Yes, you can.
I can't get out of bed without limping.
Oh, well,
Well, okay, so let me say this. And I don't know how much time we have left, but I feel like this is a good story.
let's do it.
So I will get into these exercise classes, right? And I go in there and I'm like, I really want you to come to hot yoga with me, James. It was called Yoga 101. But
Mhm.
honest to God, it's like 120 degrees.
Mhm.
And it's kind of earthy in there. The people are
Mhm.
crunchy. And that's unusual for the Midwest, right? It's unusual. And they're like, let's all gather in the center. We're going to combine our chakra. And I'm like, my chakra is staying right here by the door because there's a tiny little breeze. I don't even know what a chakra is, but mine's staying back
Right.
here. I don't know. You're on your own. So he comes in and he's like, oh yeah, I want to do hot yoga, blah, blah, blah. So he comes and our teacher's so cute and she's so beautiful and she's just perfectly built and everything. And she walks around the room and she'll like help you position yourself. Cause if you do it wrong, you can hurt yourself
Uh-huh.
and maybe the person next to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I kept getting this one guy every week. At last second, he'd come in and get by me and sweat garlic.
Oh,
I was like, the devil is a
he was
liar.
Italian, huh?
He was profuse. I mean, sweating profuse. He was draining, actually. Like, I mean, how can one individual have this much fluid?
Oh.
Did you pee back here? That's what I'm like, what is going on? So James comes in. He's just naturally athletic. He's good at everything he
Mhm.
tries. It's just annoying. But also very attractive, I must say. So he comes in, the teacher's walking around the room, and I don't know, we're in tree pose, and she puts her hands on his hips. And she's like steadying his hips. And then she's like, oh, yes, like this, a little bit like this. And I was like, what is going on? Just get your hands off his hips. Or I'm going to have to like,
Punch you in the throat.
yeah,
It
I'm
all
going to child's
begins with
pose
that.
right on your
I'll
back.
crouching tiger you.
I'm going to show you something about eagle arms you didn't know before.
There is a hidden dragon crouch.
And then she got all verklempt, like she was lost.
You
She was
said
like, "Oh,
verklempt.
gosh."
What a great word.
And she was like, oh gosh, like, I don't know where we were. Did we do the left side? Like, she's completely confused. And I look over at him and I said, you're never coming back to here again.
I got some good yoga stories now. That's a good yoga story. I
Oh
like
my
that one.
goodness.
Yeah.
There's some good ones.
One time he said, hey, let's really get in shape. We have these like spurts. We're like, all right, let's do it. He's like, every day or twice a week, we're going to go to Pilates because
Mhm.
those Pilates people lie to you. And they tell you if you can do 10 sessions of Pilates, your body will transform in just 10 sessions.
Mm-mm.
Apparently, I am a special challenge to that theory.
Be careful, we have a Pilates
Oh.
business right above us.
Well, it probably works if you don't biggie size number 4
You
after
got to go
Pilates
to 20.
class.
You have to
Yeah.
have 20 episodes.
There's
Right.
other things that happen.
So he's like, we're going to go to Pilates class. We'll go on our lunch hour and then we'll have a protein shake because at this gym, they make these really great protein shakes. And then we're just going to lose weight and we're going to be so skinny. We're gonna be looking on the beach, looking on good. I was like, yeah, we
This is
are.
like 20 years ago.
Yeah. And we already looked good. I mean,
Mhm.
compared to now. I was a 9.5, a 9.8 compared to what I got going on today. So we walk in there and there literally Barbie is teaching our class.
Oh.
And so I position myself front and center because I'm dumb and I just did that. And she's standing in front of me and I can see either side of me on either side of her because of the mirror. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
she's standing
Uh-huh.
like this, and here's my left haunch and my right haunch on either side of her. And then she is like perfect, like rolling around in these beautiful positions. And I am like wallering all over. I was like, I'll tell you what's going to happen in 10 sessions. I'm probably going to be divorced. I mean, how is this attractive? I mean, here I am just a waller in my big self all over the
This was
place.
Pilates?
Horrible.
Oh, that's
Horrible
hilarious.
experience. I just felt ashamed of myself. I just walked out like
That's
that. No one
hilarious.
wants to look at that.
Yeah, because they say strengthen your core, right? That's what Pilates is all about, strengthening your
I
core.
don't remember.
But does it
Mhm.
strengthen your relationship? Because I feel like there's no way James could walk out of there and be like, I am so attracted to my wife. I feel like he walked out and had said to God, am I being punished? What happened here?
Why don't you talk about, as we close,
Mhm.
talk about what we're doing in September?
Oh, yes. I'm so glad
Yeah.
you brought that up.
I think we need to let people know because there's still time to sign up.
Okay. And so
Tell us.
we are going to Israel and we are
Mhm.
taking an incredible trip to Israel. And if you've never been to Israel and you're a student of the Bible, I can just tell you that it will revolutionize your life. And a lot of people will say to me, like, well, when I retire, I'm going to travel or I'm going to go to Israel. Like, once I get these kids out of school, I'll be able to do more things. But honestly, it is a mistake to wait
Mhm.
because it requires youthfulness. It's a lot of walking.
Okay.
And it is very emotionally It's draining. Like, I mean, every day you are just blown away and you will never read the Bible the same.
Can't. It's impossible.
It changes, it just transforms. I mean, we talk about transformation. Like it just transforms how you view your own faith. And to me, it caused some deep, deep roots to
Wow.
grow. There is no better investment, honest to God.
Okay.
There's one place in Israel, I told you this, where, their country is thousands of years old. And so there are layers of civilization built on top of layers of civilization because one civilization was destroyed and they built on top of it. So there's one place where you can go down to the original Via della Rosa street and it's underground. You have to go underground to get on it. And you can take your shoes off. They encourage you to take your shoes off and walk this street where Jesus walked. And it's a small portion of concrete. It's not like a street, but we had some people in our group that were like, I don't know, like everybody from all around the world is putting their feet on this. And I was
And
like, shoes off, going on.
mhm.
I came all this way. I didn't come to do it halfway. Like I came to have the real experience.
What
But
are some of the things we're going to be doing while we're there?
so we're gonna go to Capernaum. I think like that is one of my most favorite places because Jesus grew up in Nazareth
Mhm,
and he grew up in Galilee. And so Galilee is like a region, and there are multiple cities in this region. But Capernaum is on the Sea of Galilee. And
mhm.
if I could spend another day anywhere in Israel, honestly, it would probably be there. Like because it's a natural setting, we're probably looking at what Jesus looked at,
Uh-huh.
just the sound of the water, the air, the sea water, the sun. You're in a temple that they've excavated where Jesus taught, where Apostle Peter's mother-in-law's house is right over here. And you can kind of see how communal the people were and how they lived. And Jesus, this is super cool about Nazareth. When you go to Nazareth, it is mountainous. Well, I would say not Arizona mountainous, it's hilly,
Okay.
but it's rocky. And so Jesus was like, um, he was like a Western cowboy, kind of like
That's
he
awesome.
ran around the mountains. Like they are mountain dwellers and they carved out their houses into the mountain.
Oh, wow.
So when God says he'll hide you in the cleft of the rock, he
Oh.
literally put his son in the cleft of the rock to grow up. Oh my,
Ooh.
and they were stonemasons. So everything, it's
So when we think
incredible.
carpenter, we're thinking a
Right.
woodworker, but what
No,
we're really supposed to see is a stonemason.
stonemason. He was the stone that the
Wow.
builders rejected. He's the chief cornerstone. Like all
My
that
goodness.
stone imagery. And where's the place, James, where we went? We went to this place um, where Jesus says to Apostle Peter, who do you say that
Yeah,
I am?
Oh.
Caesarea Philippi.
Mhm.
Caesarea Philippi, and there's a beautiful waterfall here. And when he says, upon this rock, upon this revelation of who I am, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Literally, there was a spot there. There were three pagan temples there that were built at that time, and they have like pictures to show you what it would have looked like. And so you can kind of like imagine it, but it's a very beautiful garden, very lush, a clear spring that's bubbling up out of this mountain.
Mm.
But they had a spot there in that temple that was called the gates of hell, and they believed it to be a bottomless pit.
Yeah, I have a picture of it.
Wow.
What? I did not know that. And that's the thing about
Wow.
going to Israel is that you learn things that we have been taught them from a Western perspective.
Right.
It's completely inaccurate.
Wow.
It's just different. It's a lot
Imagine
different.
that.
Yeah.
We aren't right about everything.
We aren't right about everything.
And by we, I mean collectively.
Yes.
Like I'm close,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
as a community, no.
So if you want to be a part of this amazing adventure of a lifetime to Israel 2023, we are departing the United States on September 1st, 2023, and we are returning back here to the United States on September 11th of 2023. There's more information available on our website, mydailybread.global/ Holy Land Tour 2023. You can be a part of that trip. There's still spaces available, but you need to get on now. Log on today. You can even log in through the mobile app, My Daily Bread Global mobile app, and make your reservation right there. The trip is going to be amazing. The three of us are going to be there along with
Yes.
several others.
And my dad,
Yeah,
Lord
your
help.
dad is going to help
Mhm.
us. Pastor Penny's going to be there. We're all
Yes.
getting to lead this trip together and be a part of this amazing experience. If you want to be baptized in the Jordan River, you want to be on this trip. If
Ron, are you gonna get
I'm
baptized?
getting
You
baptized in the
have
Jordan
to.
River, yeah.
You can't go
You
there and
Oh
have
not get
no,
to.
baptized.
but I do need them to maybe clean the water a little
It's
bit.
clean.
Okay, is it?
It's crazy clean. Yes,
Okay,
it is like clear see-through.
that's perfect. I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So come get baptized with us.
You went
Come
to a
enjoy
different place
this.
than me.
What's that?
She went to a different place than me.
Well, it could be like, in Destin, how some days the water's really
Yes, very
cloudy and
true.
then
Oh,
some days it's
yeah.
like super, super
Okay.
clear.
Sorry to
But
interrupt you,
it's
Ron.
It's all
beautiful.
right.
The
Hey,
empty tomb,
that's what we want to see.
I mean, standing there will just shake you to your bones.
And then we're going to visit the Holocaust Museum.
Yes.
And
That is
Powerful.
so
I'm
powerful.
really looking forward to all of
Mhm.
those experiences. So
Mhm.
again, if you want to be a part of that amazing trip, there are still spaces available. Reach out to My Daily Bread either on the mobile app or through our website, mydailybread.global, and click on the Israel tour information to make your reservation today. I love you guys. This has been an amazing
Oh, so
opportunity
fun.
with you
An
Thank you
guys.
for
honor.
having
A
us.
Yes.
dream come true.
Oh,
A
stop.
seriously, a
You
dream
need to
come
have more
true.
dreams.
All of the people that have been in season, all of the people that have been in season one, were part of the imagination side of developing the My Daily Bread Global podcast. And I'm so thankful that I've gotten to have this opportunity with everybody, these conversations. Hopefully, these conversations have blessed you. If you are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, comment below, leave us a comment, and share the video with friends. We're trying to increase our viewership. Or you're watching on Apple Podcasts or through Google Play or one of the podcast, even Spotify. Leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what kind of conversations you want us to have. We're looking forward to season number 2 beginning next week. God
Woo.
bless everybody.